Go ahead, look in your wallet. If you have one, pull out a bill. If not, just imagine one. It's a piece of paper, maybe some fancy polymer with ink on it. You can't eat it, it won't keep you warm. By itself, it has no real intrinsic worth. So, why can you walk into a store, hand this rectangle to a complete stranger, and get a hot meal for it? Isn't that a little weird? Somehow, all of us have entered into this fragile collective make believe that this piece of paper is worth something. An agreement so powerful, it literally holds our world together. This isn't a story about getting rich, it's the story of that agreement. A strange and powerful idea that turned worthless paper into maybe the single most important object in our lives. The story we all get in school is pretty simple. A long, long time ago, before money, there was barter. A farmer with too many chickens who needed new shoes had to find a shoemaker who just so happened to be craving chicken for dinner. It's called the double coincidence of wants, and it's the classic problem money supposedly solved. For a trade to work, I need what you have, and you need what I have, at the same time in the right amounts. As societies got bigger, you can see how this would become a nightmare. Imagine the mental math. How many chickens for a pair of shoes? How many shoes for a cow? And how on earth do you make change for a cow? But here's where the official story gets complicated. Many anthropologists and historians now argue that a pure, large scale barter economy like we imagine probably never really existed. Instead, early economies were likely built on something far more human: debt and relationships. In a small village, you didn't trade your neighbor for help, you just helped. You'd both keep a mental tally, a kind of social credit, knowing they owed you one. A compelling theory is that money didn't appear to replace barter, but to formalize and scale this system of social debt. It wasn't just a tool for swapping stuff, it was a way of recording promises. In this view, the first money wasn't a coin, it was an IOU. To get from a mental IOU to something that looks like money, we needed an object, something everyone could agree on. For thousands of years, humanity experimented. In Mesopotamia, it was barley. On ancient trade routes, it was salt. The word salary actually comes from the Latin salarium, which was the money Roman soldiers were given to buy their essential salt ration. Other cultures used shells, beads, or even massive immovable stone wheels called rye stones. But, eventually, two materials basically won the contest: gold and silver. Why? They just had the best resume for the job. They were durable. They didn't rot like barley. They were easily divisible. They were portable, unlike, giant stone wheels. And crucially, they were scarce. You couldn't just find more gold lying around. This was humanity's first huge financial agreement. We all agree these shiny, kind of useless metals have value. Then, around 600 BC, in the Kingdom of Lydia, in modern day Turkey, rulers took the next logical step. They started stamping pieces of metal with an official seal, guaranteeing their weight and purity. These were some of the world's first coins. This was a revolution. You no longer had to weigh the metal or bite it to see if it was pure. You just had to trust the stamp. The value was shifting from just the metal itself to the guarantee from a trusted authority. And right there, the idea of money began its long, slow journey from being a thing of value to a symbol of value. Let's be honest, carrying around sacks of gold is heavy and dangerous. So merchants in China came up with a brilliant workaround. The idea began to form during the Tang dynasty in the 7th century, but it really took off a few centuries later under the Song dynasty. They would leave their heavy coins with a trusted party, who in turn gave them a paper note, a receipt certifying that they owned the gold. These notes were way easier to carry and could be traded just like the gold itself. This was the birth of paper money, but it wasn't money on its own, it was representative money. The paper had no value. Its entire worth came from the promise that you could at any time go and exchange it for the real thing: the gold sitting in a vault. This model became the foundation of global finance for centuries, leading to something called the gold standard. After World War II, the world's major economies made a deal called the Bretton Woods Agreement. The US dollar was tied to gold at a set price, $35 an ounce, and all other major currencies were then pegged to the US dollar. Any foreign central bank could, in theory, show up to the US Treasury and exchange its dollars for physical gold. It was a system that created stability and made the dollar the king of all currencies, but it had a fatal flaw. As the world economy boomed, countries piled up huge reserves of dollars. Meanwhile, the United States, funding military spending and its own growth, was printing more and more of them. Soon, an unsettling truth became obvious. There were way more dollars out there than the US had gold to back them up. The promise was getting bigger than the reality. The trust was starting to crack. And right there, at that breaking point, the foundation of our entire modern financial world began to fracture. We're about to hit the single most important event in the history of money in the last 100 years. If you're finding this journey into our shared fictions as fascinating as I do, take a second to subscribe and hit that bell. We explore big ideas like this every week, and you really won't want to miss what happened next. The breaking point came on August 15th, 1971. With countries like Britain and France getting nervous and lining up to trade their dollars for gold, US President Richard Nixon had a choice: either watch the nation's gold reserves drain away completely or break the promise. In a televised speech, he chose to break the promise. He announced a temporary suspension of the dollar's convertibility into gold. That temporary suspension is still in effect today. In that moment, the gold standard died, and the nature of money changed forever. Overnight, the US dollar and soon almost every currency became what's known as fiat money. Fiat is Latin for let it be or it shall be so. Money now has value simply because the government says it does. Think about that for a second. The paper in your wallet is no longer a claim check for gold. It is backed by nothing tangible. So why is it worth anything at all? Its value comes from the stability of the institutions that issue it, a government decree that you must accept it to pay taxes, and, most importantly, our collective belief that it works. You accept a dollar as payment only because you're confident that someone else will accept that same dollar from you tomorrow. It's a shared illusion, a social contract. Money is valuable because we all agree it is. This system gives governments incredible power to manage their economies. But it's also built on a very fragile foundation. If that collective belief shatters, if people lose faith, usually due to a government's collapse or a decision to print money into oblivion, the illusion evaporates. The money becomes worthless paper. This is what you see in hyperinflation, a total collapse of trust. For 50 years, we've lived in this age of pure fiat, the age of trust in institutions. But in 2009, right after a global financial crisis that badly shook that trust, a new experiment was born. An anonymous creator named Satoshi Nakamoto released Bitcoin. Bitcoin proposed a totally new kind of agreement. It's a currency with no country, no central bank, no physical form. So what's it backed by? The answer is both nothing and something incredibly complicated. It's backed by mathematics. Instead of trusting a government, Bitcoin asks us to trust its code. Its scarcity isn't guaranteed by how hard it is to mine a metal, but by a computer algorithm that dictates only 21 million will ever exist. Transactions aren't verified by a bank, but by a decentralized network of thousands of computers all maintaining a shared public ledger, the blockchain. Whether Bitcoin or any crypto becomes the future of money is still a huge, open question. But what it has already done is prove that the state doesn't have a monopoly on creating trust. A collective agreement on value can emerge from a network of people, bound together not by a flag, but by a shared belief in a technology. So why do we all agree this piece of paper is worth anything? Because the story of money was never really about the paper or the gold or even the code. The technology changes, but the core idea doesn't. Money in any form is a system of trust. It is the greatest story humanity has ever told itself. A collective agreement that allows billions of strangers to cooperate with each other every single day. From a village elder remembering a favor, to a king stamping his face on silver, to a government promising its currency is stable, to an algorithm securing a digital ledger, every step has been an evolution in how we agree to trust one another. That piece of paper in your wallet isn't just for buying things. It's a token of a fragile, invisible, and deeply human network of belief that ties our entire civilization together. It's not a thing, it's a relationship. And that might be the strangest and most powerful idea of all.